Appointed hour of 10 o'clock. We will call to order the October 23rd, 2014 meeting of the MAPS 3 Citizens Advisory Board. I want to begin with a thank you to Susan for filling in and chairing the last meeting. I appreciate you doing that. It was, and from reading the minutes, it looked like things went really smoothly. Congratulations. Also wanted to mention that Dee Morales is not with us today. Got an email from her just before I came. She is also missed the Whitewater groundbreaking, and she is on assignment with Good Morning America following the Ebola story from Atlanta to Dallas. And so this is, as you know, one of the biggest news stories in America. And she's right in the middle of it, but sent her regards to all of you and wanted you to know if she weren't working, she'd be here. So, and Kimberly Lois sent a text. She's on her way. Been delayed, but she'll be here in just a minute. So, with that, we'll call the meeting to order. You have received the minutes of the September 25th meeting and had a chance to review them. Are there additions or corrections?
Move approval of the minutes.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes. Further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The minutes are approved. Item 3, you have in your packet the revenue and expenditure report for the period ending September the 30th, 2014. And in addition to that, we also have what Mike Adams and others have requested, the report on the budget and obligation report as of October the 13th. David, you want to take us through that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you said, you have in your packet the MAPS 3 Revenue and Expenditure Report for the period ending September 30th, 2014. On the revenue side for the month, $9,092,431. For fiscal year, we have $27,674,363 for a total revenue of $444,417,722. On the expenditure side for the month, we have $7,963,621. Fiscal year of $8,828,542 for a total of $71,796,753. And as far as the major expenses for the month, for the fairgrounds, we made a large deposit for public art. That is included in there. And then there's consultant fees. For the convention center, there was design fees, professional fees on that. Health and wellness is public art, was deposited on that. And let me back up on the fairgrounds. Actually, there were significant construction claims that were paid, not only for the paving that was completed, but also for design services. Then on the park, public art, to the tune of $692,000 was deposited for that, and then professional fees on that. Streetcar is a substantial number, and that is because it was the second half of the hub deposit, the money that was allocated for that. Trails and sidewalks is predominantly construction monies.
David, could I ask a question? I'm delighted to see all those deposits for public art, as you can imagine.
Okay.
But with regard to the park, there was some conversation in the subcommittee meeting yesterday about combining the budgets for the upper park and the lower park into one lump for public art. Does that do that, or is this just the upper park?
I believe this is just the upper park, and what we were talking about yesterday at the park was phase 1 and phase 2 of the upper park. So we haven't collected money for the lower park just yet because of our timeline, and we will make that deposit later. I believe that's right. I'm looking at staff.
Yeah, okay.
That is just for the upper.
All right. Just to keep in our mind, I think there was some hope on behalf of the consultant maybe and the committee that if we knew what that lower park number was going to be, that would really help us get to a very
We have those numbers in the office, and I can get with you and go over that.
Good. Great. Thank you very much. Kim, I was just lobbying for a budget for the public art for the park, and the conversation that we had yesterday about trying to perhaps put the upper park and the lower park budget together for public art.
Then you also have another sheet here for the MAPS 3 budget and obligations report for the period ending October 13th, 2014. And I won't go through each of those, but you can see the obligations and the remaining budgets for each of the breakout projects. Be happy to answer any questions.
I noticed there was no interest posted for the month.
I'm not sure. I have to refer to our financial person in the office on why there wasn't any interest posted this month on the financials. This is Lance Musgrave.
We have not received those numbers for accounting. They weren't posted yet, so we'll reflect those in the next month's report. We'll include the interest for this month also.
It's probably just a timing issue with their work and when we post this.
Okay.
So we're earning interest.
I'm sure we were. I just want to make sure we can credit for
Would
it.
you say that, Lance? We're earning interest, it just hasn't been posted yet.
Absolutely, we're earning interest. The accounting department takes pooled interest accounts, and they have to allocate those to all the funds, and we don't always get those by the allocations for the month by the cutoff when we prepare these reports, but they'll be included in the next month's report.
Okay. Thank you.
David, could we see, maybe next month or whenever, kind of like a graph that kind of shows us some historical perspective on targets? It would be interesting to kind of see how from month to month, kind of how that's trending, or if it's trending, or if it's...
You just want a graph just showing the collections
and how often we were at target, and what
Okay.
percent we were or not.
we can put something together.
Michael, you had something else?
Yeah, David, could you said the streetcar, the $5 million or so in streetcar related to HUD deposit. Could you explain what?
The hub, the intermodal
Okay,
hub.
I said HUD.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Any other questions about the revenue and expenditure report or the budget and obligations report? Been moved that we approve it. Been seconded. Further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. It is received and approved. Item 4 is a resolution regarding the trail connection. David?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 4 is recommend resolution approving change order number 2 for MAPS 3 Phase 1 West River Trail Connection, South Council Road to Northwest 10th Street, increase of $145,210.20, project M3-T001A. This is the second change order for the part of the trail that is from approximately Council Road to 10th Street, that northern piece of the river trail. These are items that we would typically expect to see during construction. Field conditions dictate some changes. I can go through each of these real quickly. There's a fence layout that had to be restaked, and you'll see that this item is being paid by the engineer because there was a coordinates mistake, so they are picking that up. Then there's a fence post modification, some grading revisions that was because of an adjacent property owner, after we did the plans, after we even began construction, is moved some dirt around, and since we are between that property and the river, and everything drains to the river, wherever the contours are that the drainage goes to, we have to meet that, and he has changed some of that. Also, he pushed different kinds of soil in there. It's much sandier soil, so we had to go with a different foundation to hold fence posts up. Parking lot revisions is an existing parking lot that is being used for this project. It was a little covered with dirt, and it is almost another year older, so we've got an item here to do a seal coat and remark the parking lot. And seal coat is where they take the asphalt and just pretty much squeegee it out, and it seals the cracks. Some more drainage revisions for what I just previously mentioned, some changes that an adjacent property owner made. There's a piece of trail right there by a business called Rush Trucking. It's right real close to the river, and we're doing an alternate project to help stabilize that bank. So in the interim, we're not building this piece of track or this piece of trail as per plan. We're going to put just enough to connect it for now, So we have a credit, we're getting some money back on that until we do this other project to stabilize that bank. Then there's also some erosion issues on here. Items 7 and 8 are, again, as you get out in the field and you realize how things are grading. Remember that this area, when it was designed and surveyed, was covered in brush, covered in trees. It's a very natural area. It's not like working downtown or someplace like that. Then item 9 is for some additional insurance. At the time when we sent out the bids, we had not completely worked it out with the railroad as to what their insurance requirements were, and now we have, and that is an actual number for the contractor. Then there's a gabion retaining wall, and gabion retaining wall is one of those, you may have seen, it's basically a wire basket that's full of rocks, and it holds its shape, but it's rocks, and it helps prevent erosion. So hopefully I haven't told you more than you care to know, but then you'll see also that we are only 5.04% over the contract amount, and we have an estimated completion date of February 9th, 2015.
Susan, does the subcommittee recommend we approve this? Been moved and seconded that we approve this resolution, approving the amendment number 1. Further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The resolution is approved. That takes us to item number 5 regarding the contract with Populous for the Convention Center. David?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 5 is recommend resolution approving amendment number 1 to the contract for architectural services with Populous Incorporated for MAPS 3 Convention Center, increase of $16,674,788 for the validated concept with a provision for the expanded concept at an increase of $18,514,951. Project M3-C003. This is an amendment because, remember, we engaged Populous early on to do conceptual work and to help coordinate between all the projects because we've been having the consultant coordination meetings. This contract reflects what was approved by this board last month, and that was that the subcommittee sent on the resolution that we had to approve the convention center project per the validated concept, but also showed that they preferred that we do the expanded concept. So this, and the expanded concept, remember, being the extension of the exhibit hall from the east side of Hudson to the west side, so essentially going underneath Hudson Avenue. So this contract is structured so that when it goes to City Council, it can be either of those two options. So that's why we have the one amount for the validated concept and one for the expanded concept. You also have it in draft form today as it went to the subcommittee, only because there's a couple of things that we still need to work out with the consultant and our legal team as far as insurance, and there's some other minor language in there about delivery of as-built and that kind of thing. But the contract that goes to City Council will not differ substantially from what you're seeing here today. It certainly will not differ in the amount or scope.
David, if I could just clarify something in terms of the way it's written. I may be the only one that read it this way and took a deep breath, and just to be sure that anybody else that reads it, we're talking about the validated concept, and we always show it as an increase of the amount of the fee of $16,674,000, and then a provision for the expanded concept at an increase of $18 million. It's not an additional.
That's right.
It's an additional less than $2 million.
It's either or.
An extra $35 million or so of construction cost. So it's either or, but when you read that quickly, it says an increase of that and then an increase of this other very significant amount. It took my breath away for a second, so I just wanted to be very clear.
That is a good point. Thank you.
I read that the same way and thought it could be corrected to say an increase to 18 million rather than an increase of 18 million. Would that
would clarify, actually.
See what I mean? Mm-hmm. Is that okay?
Yeah. So just the second of should turn into 2.
That's what I thought.
So it would be an increase of 16 or an increase
to
18. I think you're correct.
So the increase is the total.
It's the total.
The total contract's not 18 million though, because you've had some stuff already done, right? So it's going to really be more than the 18 million.
That's a good point. I believe that's why of is there.
Okay?
So maybe it's or, maybe you should just say or an increase of.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah.
I stand corrected. That makes sense, Michael. Thank you.
I think that's the case.
I will just say that this issue was discussed extensively at both as to procedure as how it's presented, how it should be presented to the council to give them, to put them in a decision to make, put them in a position to make a decision where the contract would conform to the decision they make about the preferred size of the project. And so that was discussed at some length at the subcommittee meeting and was unanimously approved. Sue, did you want to add anything to that? So it comes with the recommendation for approval from the subcommittee. You want to
I'll move approval of the resolution.
Is there a second?
David, yeah, the word, I do think if you simply change the word, where you say with a provision for the expanded concept, if you were to change that to or a provision for the expanded concept, I think it clarifies more clearly. So maybe if we could just,
All right.
I'll withdraw that motion and
or maybe just a motion that would
amend the motion to include that verbiage
with to or, yeah.
with to or.
Are we okay on that? Is that okay, Carol? All right. All right, we have a motion to approve the resolution as amended. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded. Further discussion?
David, yesterday at the Transit Subcommittee, we had a discussion with the designers. We're talking about some of the conflicts that we have with businesses and existing buildings along the routes where sub-basements and stuff encroached into or under the street. And I heard you say that the convention center will now encroach underneath of Hudson. Will that be another one of those areas that the construction will have to take into consideration?
That's one of the things that was discussed with the subcommittee, was that they feared that the convention center would be built, and then if they expanded in any near time, that there would have to be the tracks taken out. So that is one of the considerations that was being made. But we will work so that the timing is that this will be built, and then the streetcar will be built on top of that. Populous has done convention centers, I think one in maybe in Phoenix, but they've done them before that have extended under streets, so they're very familiar with doing this.
Kim?
I wondered, obviously I understand the spirited discussion that happened in the convention center obviously brought this forward as I well believe that it should, but I wondered if this board wanted to make a recommendation that they had a preference for one over the other. My personal preference is that, we have a strong inclination to look at option B because of all that it brings in this project in elevating our city in the status of convention centers. So I might suggest that we entertain making a strong recommendation for option B.
I think we did that at the last meeting. We approved it, so Tom. I was just going to think we approved the language that came from the subcommittee that had a strong recommendation toward the expanded concept.
Right, and so in that same fashion, I'm saying we carry that logic forward in this recommendation so that there is consistency. But I don't know that that's important. It was just something that I felt worth mentioning.
I think it's well worth discussing. Anybody else? I guess, Kim, the way I was thinking about it, that we were enabling them to enter into the right contract if they followed our strong preference about the size. Among all of the reasons, one of the principal reasons is what David and Zane have talked about, and that is if they do the bigger footprint now, they wouldn't have to tear up the transit track in the future to achieve the long-term goal of the size. And so I don't know, David, from a procedural standpoint, do we need to do?
I think it's up to this board if you feel like you need to say it again.
All right. What's your pleasure? Sue?
I think we're clear, and I feel good with Councilwoman Sawyer bringing it. And I'll ask to call for the vote.
Right. The question's been called. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. It is, I believe, unanimously adopted. All right. Thank you. All good points. That takes us to item 6. Any new business?
No, sir.
All right. We've got some subcommittee reports. I'm going to start with Bob Nealon, who celebrated here a few days ago a groundbreaking. Bob?
We did have the groundbreaking, well attended, and it was a nice ceremony. We're underway. Obviously, there's going to be a fairly significant amount of time before we really see steel coming up out of the ground, but there's a lot of infrastructure work that has to be done. But the construction is underway, and we will have an expo center sometime in 2016.
Thank you. Any questions for Bob? Well, Michael Adams, you had a groundbreaking.
We did. The River Subcommittee did not meet this week other than at the groundbreaking, and we also had a very well-attended groundbreaking ceremony, and I guess we got out there, we saw the ground had actually already been broken. There'd been a lot of work already done. They'd already pushed a lot of dirt around, a lot of heavy equipment out there, so I think they're well underway, and it was very appreciative of everybody that attended, and I think it was well received. Nice article in the paper and on the newscast.
Yeah, I just add one thing. There's a lot of planning went into it by staff and others, and having the U.S. Olympic Committee there was, I think, really added to the occasion, and I would like to think made an impression on the U.S. Olympic Committee about our progress and our commitment to the river and as a venue of national and international proportions. So we got great reviews from the U.S. Olympic Committee, so that was a good thing. In addition to all the local people who were there, so it was a good thing. Anybody else have a question for Michael about that? Okay. Any other subcommittees want to report? Sue?
I'd like to add to the Trails Sidewalks Committee that David shared with us that the city has received some compliments. And so that's really nice to get some communication from our citizens on how much they appreciate the sidewalks that are going in around town. And it's obvious to them that MAPS is adding to our city with sidewalks.
Great. Thank you, Sue. Any other subcommittee want to report? Kimberly?
Streetcar.
I'm sorry?
I was going to give an update on streetcar, but you want to go ahead?
Ladies first.
Yeah, please.
Thank you. The Park Subcommittee met yesterday, and we had our consultants Hargraves in for yet another update on our schematics for the park design. As you all recall, we have completed the master design. We've seen our first set of updates last month, and now we have come into a second set of updates, and it's very exciting to see as things go from conceptual to a little bit more finer points. There's still a lot of work, study, investigation, and budgetary concerns to look forward, but I can tell you that an Upper Park is beginning to shape up. Even looking at how events might possibly look just from their skeleton, and it's becoming easier to visualize these things with your eyes open now rather than your eyes closed. We also received an environmental remediation study that was an enthusiastic 2 thumbs up for nothing at this point. No shell shock of something we didn't expect to find, so things are progressing forward.
Thank you, Kim. Any questions for Kim? Okay, transit. Nathaniel?
So we met yesterday, and probably the most significant update is we received an update on the hub work that's being done by Public Works and other related parties, update from Eric Winger. And we had a very pressing question about the spacing required between the tracks. And the reason that matters is the long-term plan for the hub calls for a certain number of tracks to be able to expand to commuter rail and other services. So if that spacing is too great, then we won't be able to accommodate the grand vision. So I wanted to make sure that we were very clear in planning ahead, so that way the spacing would accommodate the required number of lines, but also that extends to the overpass over the ODOT Boulevard that was recently released. And so I was trying to coordinate with what ODOT's doing and what the long-term plan is for the intermodal hub, making sure that the plan that was originally approved, that Jacobs designed for us, is not condemned by way of agreeing to something now, an MOU with the rail companies that has a spacing that won't be able to accommodate the number of lines. So that was very important to us, and we stressed that, follow up on that to make sure that that's seen through. Besides that, we had an update just on the vehicle procurement, and so we think we'll have, we know we'll have the bids in soon. We have 5 companies that are interested. Don't know what that'll translate to. If we get 3 bids, that'd be great. So we'll see that soon and have a recommendation to go to City Council by mid-December to vote on approving the actual manufacturer of the vehicles.
Great. Michael?
And one other thing I thought about for the river, I guess they announced that the Whitewater facility is now officially to be known as River Sports Rapids. And I don't remember the hyphenated name, Oklahoma City's Whitewater facility or something, but the River Sports Rapids is hopefully now the name that will be applied to the Whitewater facility, and try to brand it a little bit and to differentiate it, I guess, from the other Whitewater facility we have in town. So I think that's been a confusion point for some of the citizens, and so I think that'll be helpful.
That's great. Any questions about that or about transit for Nathaniel? Zane, anything you wanted to add? No. All right. Any other subcommittee comments? All right. That takes us to item 8, informational item. David?
Mr. Chairman, the informational item is just to show you that we purchased a parcel of property from ODOT that is in the Whitewater area, and that will be completed probably today. It's been approved, and we just got to get the quick claim deed today. And that's all we have on that.
All right. That takes us to item 9 on the agenda. David, you want to give us an update on things that we may not have considered so far?
I can. We've heard a lot from the subcommittees. You heard about the river. Senior wellness centers 1 and 2 remain in design and are going well. Trails and Sidewalks has a lot of things going on. We have Phase 1 sidewalk, projects 1 and 2 are complete, and they were accepted by council this week. We have Phase 1, Project 3 is under construction. Phase 1 of the trails, Project 1 and 2 are under construction. Phase 2, Project 1 of the sidewalks is under construction. Phase 3 sidewalks are in design, and Phase 2 trails, which is the I-44 corridor, is in design also.
Wow.
We mentioned the convention center with the item today. The fairgrounds, we talked about. The park, remember that the parking and detention work is complete out there, and the expo building is under construction. And as was mentioned with the park, design is underway for the upper park, and coordination of utility relocation is underway. And Mr. Harding told us about the streetcar, so we've got a lot going on.
We do. I sometimes think we're a beautiful swan on a placid lake, but we all know that under the surface there's a lot of churning going on. So we're, as all of us can call ourselves the beautiful swans. But there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes. All right. Any other comments by the board?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if I could, I always think it's important at this meeting to thank everybody. I see Mike and Nicole here from ADG who are doing such an awesome job keeping these, well, not only are we swans, we're cats, and so keeping all these cats kind of reined in, it's hard to do. And the staff is just giving countless hours to all of this. It's a real pleasure to get to work with everybody. But I think if I had one comment about my attendance at the subcommittee meetings this go-round, it would be forward thinking. And I'm so appreciative and really aware of how much thought is going into anticipating the implementation of each of these projects and how they all coordinate. And, we've got projects scattered all over town, which is, was our goal, but we do have a chunk of them that coordinate with each other downtown. And, as Nathaniel mentioned, so much of the discussion at the streetcar meeting was, not today or tomorrow, but anticipating 20 and 25 years down the road, what kind of capacity we have for implementing the master plan for that intermodal hub and being sure that we don't commit to something today that will impact that, or at least be aware of what the impacts could be. The discussions at the park meeting and the convention center meeting and the boulevard, how all these things happen together, how events circulate on the boulevard and how they might impact the convention center. And it's just so exciting to understand that everybody on these subcommittees is really not focused on their own project, but focused on how this works for the citizens. It's really exciting to see.
Well, thank you. I agree. I think it's also noteworthy that the council, in establishing the process, thought it was important to have a council person serve on the Citizens Advisory Board. And I want to thank you for the great service you're doing, not only for, I don't mean just for the council, but I mean coming to all these subcommittee meetings when we know you have a day job too. And that you're devoting the time and effort this year that you're serving as a member of this board to attend all these subcommittee meetings means a lot to all of us. And I think it's a great way to communicate with the council. So thank you for what you're doing as well.
I have a question,
Yes, Gloria.
more than a comment. And this is related to change orders.
Yes.
And as more and more projects get underway, we're going to have more and more change orders, I would anticipate. I want to make sure that I understand if there's a total percent of a project, is there a limit on those change orders?
There is typically, and I'm leaning on Wayne, I think if it's $1 million, it's 10%. If it's more, if the construction amount is more, is that right, Wayne? There is a limit. It's 10 and 15%.
Is that of the total project, or each time you come with a change order?
If construction is under $1 million, it's 15%. Over $1 million, it's 10%.
Total, that is the total.
Correct.
So please make sure that you're keeping us informed in terms of the percent of that, the total percent where we are, that I appreciate it.
Thank you. Kim?
I just wanted to let everyone know that the ODOT has scheduled their public hearing for the Boulevard on November 13th. So I know we've had a lot of discussion about that and anticipating that date, and it has been set.
So, Kim, I think it's at the Chevy Bricktown Event Center from 5 to 7.
Yes, and it is on their web.
Perfect.
Yeah. Great. Any other comments from the boards? Staff, David, any staff member? Carol, are we doing okay? Okay. That's always comforting when the lawyer says we're doing okay. Thank you. And this is a time when citizens that are here may make comments if they'd like. Any citizens' comments? If not, does someone want to move our adjournment? It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. We're adjourned. Thanks for your attendance.